Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. Today I'd like to announce that I'm going to be winding down Repair Preservation Group Action Fund. This is a nonprofit that I started about 5 years ago in 2021 to try and get right to repair passed. I want to explain why this happened, and I also want to show you everything that we did. And when I say everything we did, I mean you're going to get to see all the bank statements for the past 5 years in the description down below to see exactly how money was spent, as well as a transaction report that goes over every single line item that says this is what this particular transaction was for, whether it was a $5 transaction, a $50,000 transaction, or a $500 transaction. I want you to understand exactly how your money was spent with this nonprofit. So right to repair is the idea that you should be able to repair what you bought and paid for, and that manufacturers should not put artificial barriers in the way of you being able to fix your own stuff. An example of this would be when I try to buy chips for a motherboard so that I could fix the motherboard of a laptop. I go to the manufacturer of the chip, I go to their electronics distributors, and they say that they're not allowed to sell the chip to me. And that sucks. Let's say that you have a device and the manufacturer wants $1,000 or $2,000 to fix the motherboard on it, but the only problem with it is a $5 to $15 charging chip. By telling the manufacturer of that chip that they can't sell that chip to me, they are creating this repair monopoly where you're stuck going to them to get the repair. Now, many of us still perform these repairs, but we do them in really strange ways. If we need a particular chip, you may buy an iPhone 10 charging case for $100 and then extract the chip from it that you need for that particular repair and then put it into the MacBook, but then you're wasting the entire iPhone 10 charging case, and it just becomes a bit of a mess. And sometimes you may just have to try to get parts off donor boards. Donor boards may not be available. It makes the entire process very difficult. So this is something I've been fighting for since about 2014, almost as long as I've had this particular YouTube channel. And I was very frustrated at the fact that I would show up to these legislative hearings, people would show up, there'd be hundreds of thousands of views on them, everybody in the comments would say, I agree with this, and then it just, nothing would happen. Like a lobbyist would show up and say some bullshit, like a magtrometer in a microwave will explode, TikTok is going to get pre-installed on people's phones, all this other type of bullshit would happen, and that would somehow win out over the people that actually wanted to pass. So I wondered what would happen if we actually had money for this. So I did a fundraiser for this, and we raised money from it, and I want to show you the results of that on screen. Before I get started with going through finances and everything else, I just wanted to make clear that the reason that I'm not moving forward is not because I don't believe in right to repair, it's because I don't see a path forward even if I were to collect more money to actually get things done differently. There are certain areas, like with reforming Section 1201 of the DMCA, where I could say, okay, with a certain amount of money, maybe this is something I can do. But with right to repair legislation, I don't see a way forward right now. Many of these bills say, please make available the same things to independents or to the owner that you make available to the manufacturer's repair centers that are authorized. But the manufacturer authorized repair center very often doesn't have access to anything. Sometimes it's the reverse logistics center that does, and then that just becomes a battle of semantics. And at the end of the day, after everything that we've done for 5.5 to 6 years, I don't see repair shops that have access to schematics and diagrams, board views, chips, everything that we were looking for 5 or 6 years ago or 10 years ago. I don't see repair shops better off now than they were back then. And one of the reasons I put schematics or die on that mouse pad that I was selling back in 2014 and 2015 is so that I couldn't edit the definition later on and pretend that something's a success when it is not a success. I don't know what it is I would need to do to actually move the ball forward with right to repair at this point at the legislative level, and I believe that has to happen at the cultural level. It has to be something where the people that go to work for these companies that grew up watching videos from me and other people actually say to themselves, when I start a company, I will never be the person that sends that email saying, please don't make this charging chip available to independents, or please don't sell this to those people. That's the change that I hope to create in the world. I don't see how to do that through right to repair laws right now, because the right to repair laws that have been passed either have loopholes in them, like, well, if there's a safety or security or trade secret issue, we can just make available a full assembly, and the full assembly is a $220 battery to a $200 phone and all this other kind of stuff. I don't see a path. And if I don't see a path, I don't feel right taking people's money. I was having a conversation with someone 2 years ago, and he said, have you ever thought that, and he was a friendly person, he didn't mean this in a bad way, but he was saying, do you ever imagine that if you were to do another fundraiser, if people would donate to you, would you suck the oxygen out of the air for the people that may actually know how to do something that you don't? And it was a good point. What if there's somebody out there that actually knows how to get a right to repair passed, that would get us schematics and diagrams and everything else, that is not getting money if I were to do a fundraiser when I'm not fully sure how to actually move forward? There's a chance that by continuing to go forward with this nonprofit, that I'm sucking the air out of the room for somebody else that may actually know how to move forward in that way when it comes to right to repair legislation. And I just don't feel good doing that, especially if I don't know what the actual path forward would be to be able to get what it is that we were looking for when I started on this journey 5 or 6 years ago. So I'm going to open QuickBooks, which is the worst financial software that you could use, but I use it because I'm familiar with it, and so is my accountant, and because I'm running too many things at once and never have time to change. And anyway, so it goes from then to today, and I have not added transactions for the past few months, but everything from 2021 through 2025 has been added. So let's just take a little overview of what we got here. So what we've raised is $934,765.76 over the past 5 years, and we have spent about $900,335.15, with the majority of the money that was being spent being on lobbying. So from GoFundMe, we got about $766,250 after fees. From checks, $1,389. Large wire transfers, there was one person who made it clear on the phone that he's done pretty well in life, wired over $100,000 back in 2021. There was Linus gave $20,000. I think there was a wire fee, so that's why it rounded down. There were Stripe donations. This means people that clicked the donate button on the FightToRepair.org website over the years that came out to $45,000. I think this is some dude who came by the store and paid $5 or $10 in cash, and this is people who donated via Zelle. Now, for expenditures, one of the things that I did, since I said I was not paying myself a salary from this nonprofit, is if I had even the slightest question about how to be in compliance with anything, I reached out to a professional lawyer or a professional CPA. The way I see it, if I'm paying myself a $0 salary, I am going to ask either my accountant or my lawyer make sure that I'm doing everything the way I'm supposed to be doing it. So this is what this is for: my accountant fees and my lawyer over the years for setting up this nonprofit, filing all the paperwork, making sure that we're in compliance. And anytime I had questions about contracts or hiring lobbyists in different states, things like that. I was dumb. I used Chase Bank. Sometimes they charge fees for things. That was very stupid. Fuck Chase Bank. Advertising and marketing. I do believe that I had bought some posters for showing up to some conventions, and you can see that here. Yeah, this is a Repair Preservation Group, flyers for distributing, cards for lobbying day promotion. Now let's get into the stuff that was really the meat and potatoes of what we were doing. So there's Colorado, Delaware, Georgia, Illinois, Maryland, Minnesota, Missouri, Washington, and then there was some general lobbying where I did not put it under any of the individual states that went to organizations that were doing this around the country. Colorado lobbying, Delaware, Georgia, Illinois. Let's go over some of the things that were done here. So in Colorado, we spent about $166,000 between 2022 and 2024, and about $136,000 on U.S. PIRG, Public Interest Research Group. So what is Public Interest Research Group? Public Interest Research Group is a nonprofit that was founded by Ralph Nader a long time ago, and there's a gentleman named Nathan Proctor there. Nathan Proctor is a person who showed up to many of these Right to Repair hearings back before there was any money from me. So one of the things that I look to do when I'm building a team is I'm always looking to figure out who are the people that were there before I was paying them. Who are the people that were always in the room? So in 2019, you can see over here this Boston State House hearing that went viral for certain clips. This is Nathan Proctor over here. He was also at this Right to Repair hearing in Maine. I don't have video of him. He was at one of them. I think I may have not caught him on camera, but I do remember meeting him in person there as well. Nathan Proctor was always in the room when I was showing up at these Right to Repair hearings, and he was also arranging strategy across the country using all of U.S. PIRG's resources in different states to try and organize people. So I've contributed a lot to working with him since he has always been there at all these hearings. He's always been pushing forward. He's always the one that showed up with the best set of talking points of anybody that was on the pro Right to Repair side. So you're going to see U.S. PIRG show up a lot in these hearings. Let's go over what happened in the different states. So Colorado Right to Repair, you're going to see that there was a Right to Repair agricultural equipment that was signed in 2023. This is Right to Repair agricultural equipment. You'll see that there was HB 241121, Right to Repair digital electronic equipment, and there was also a powered wheelchair bill. Over here, Right to Repair powered wheelchairs in Colorado, and this is something that had failed in the year before, but then started to succeed after we had the ability to actually put some force behind it and have some actual presence in the state. We were able to finally start getting these things done. The Right to Repair wheelchairs I talked about at the end of 2021, they literally just ignored everybody that showed up to the state capitol and that was in a wheelchair that wanted to answer questions. They said, we have a lot of questions, we don't have answers, and the people that showed up, more than willing to answer questions, were ignored. So I was very happy to see that this actually passed. So Colorado, I would say, was one of the bigger successes, even though they are doing their best at this point in time to undo this bill with the help of Cisco's lobbyists. That does make me sad, but yeah, Colorado was a decent success. Delaware. What went on in Delaware? So there was a bill that kind of went nowhere there, to be honest with you. This was House Bill 22. This was a right to repair bill that essentially went nowhere, an act to amend Title VI of the Delaware Code relating to the digital right to repair. This was not successful. This did not actually go anywhere, and luckily there was not a lot of expenditure there for what went nowhere. In Georgia, we did hire a lobbyist to try, and it was Eternal Vigilance Action. This was supposed to be general right to repair. It was going to be filed in 2023, but it did not clear the deadline to pass out of the Senate. I believe this is Georgia Senate Bill 243, selling and other trade practices manufactured to provide certain items necessary for the diagnosis and repair of digital electronic equipment. And unfortunately, this did not make it anywhere. We wanted to try and set up a coalition in Georgia ahead of the 2022 Georgia General Assembly session, and this unfortunately did not make much progress. This did not really go anywhere. Senate Bill 243 was eventually filed, but never advanced out of the Senate by the deadline, and that was that. Next up is going to be Illinois. We spent money on, who is this? This was Dave Lewitsky Consulting. This was for House Bill 3061. This is a Digital Fair Repair Act, provides that original manufacturer shall make available, pretty much the thing, as Mr. Joe Biden would say. This is something that unfortunately went nowhere. No bill advanced to a vote, and we just never went forward in the state. We didn't see a path to this actually getting passed anywhere, unfortunately. Maryland. Oh boy, Maryland's a fun one. So in Maryland, we hired a lobbying firm called Funk & Bolton, who did a decent job, but never helped us get something passed. Maryland is a state that's been quite complicated. We have a few issues there. The first was C.T. Wilson lying and claiming that I'm a racist, as well as many people who support right to repair, because I said that I don't think he understands the difference between source code and firmware. I said that in 2020, and after saying that, he called us racists, and it was just very, very, everything is in this video. The next is this. So there was a lobbyist, I forget if it wasn't lobbyist, it was the head of the Farm Bureau in Maryland, said that farmers don't really care about fixing their own stuff. This is a phone call that I fucked up. I should have leaked this phone call the moment it came out. I should have said, you know what, I'm writing off Maryland. I'm never going to get anything passed here. At the very least, let me just reveal how corrupt these people are. And I did this video saying why I hid the truth for a year and why I regret it. The lobbyist that I hired in Maryland suggested that I not go public with this information if I actually wanted to get a bill passed. But the problem is, I didn't go public with it, and I also didn't get a bill passed. So I learned a lesson there, which is if you're getting fucked, at the very least, you need to let people know that you're getting fucked rather than say, well, you should accept getting fucked a little bit, because if you accept getting fucked a little bit, maybe you'll win in the end. If somebody is fucking you, you never win. I'm just going to throw that out there. And that was a lesson that I learned the hard way, and I would not rehire Funk & Bolton in the future. In my opinion, I believe that lobbyist cared more about their relationships with the people in the Maryland state legislature that they'd have to deal with later than they did about me as a client. Again, when somebody says on a recorded fucking phone line that they don't believe that farmers want to or care to or have the ability to fix their own stuff, and that person is the person that's supposed to be representing farmers' interests, that shit needs to be released as soon as fucking possible. And if it means that I'm not going to get a bill passed, if it means that all this money that I spent lobbying in that state, that $35,000 is fucking wasted, I got to deal with the fact that I wasted $35,000 of your money trying to push forward right to repair in a state that was hopeless, and just deal with it. And instead of thinking of it in terms of, maybe there's something I could salvage here if I play the game, realize that the entire game is rigged, and just tell you. And that's the lesson that I learned from that you can see in this video, why I hid the truth for a year and why I regret it. Lesson learned, sometimes when you are paying somebody, you are completely okay to take that expert advice and then make your own determination that this is bad advice and move on with it. Next up is Minnesota. Minnesota did have some successes. Minnesota did get something passed. I remember going over a gentleman named Gary Doms, and he was blocking right to repair in Minnesota. Yeah, the one person stopping right to repair in Minnesota. So this video is me talking about the person that was blocking right to repair from getting voted on there. I believe he's a senator in the state senate in Minnesota. He owned car dealerships and thinks people fixing their own stuff can sometimes lead to bad things happening. So he was blocking it from getting voted on. So the lobbyist we hired there was actually very creative. He came up with this very interesting strategy to get it pushed through a budget initiative or something like that. I forget exactly how this went because this was a while ago, But this, well, yeah, it was folded into an omnibus. That's what it was. It was SF 2744. Very, very intelligent idea, and the coalition did get it done. Awesome lobbyist. A shout out to Shep Harris from that lobbying firm. He's awesome. This is SF 2744, and this wound up getting passed. Let's go over what it looked like. Office of the Minnesota Attorney General, the right to repair in Minnesota. On July 1st, 2024, Minnesota's new Digital Fair Repair Act went into effect. Now, this is not a perfect bill. Again, it excludes game consoles, which I'm not really happy about, but you can't win everything in this world now, can you? We did get something passed in Minnesota. Missouri, this was $62,500, and this was lobbying that money that went to the Rodin Group. So let's go over what we did there. There were a few bills that we were going for. One was for farm equipment, and the other was for consumer electronics. Yeah, this HB 217 changes the law regarding consumer products so that certain individuals and businesses have a right to repair information from certain manufacturers. And HB 698 changes the laws regarding consumer products so that certain individuals and businesses have a right to repair information from certain manufacturers. So what happened here? So we paid a lobbyist in Jefferson City to try and get this pushed forward. The sponsor seemed to lose interest in it, and there was no legislative result. Yeah, none of this ever got passed. Well. Next, Washington was a complicated one, so we had a few different things we tried to do. So one was through U.S. PIRG, and one was through directly hiring a lobbyist as us. So let's go through some of the bills that we were going for and show you. We had House Bill 1212, promoting the fair servicing and repair of digital electronic products. House Bill 1801, concerning the repair of digital electronic equipment. House Bill 1810, promoting the fair servicing and repair of digital electronic products. Senate Bill 5795, concerning the application of Consumer Protection Act to the fair servicing and repair of manufactured products. And a few more in later sessions, promoting the fair servicing and repair of digital electronic equipment. Promoting the fair servicing and repair of digital electronic equipment. What happened here? So House Bill 1392 passed the Washington House 58-38 in spring of 2023, then died in the Senate and went nowhere. Ironically, Microsoft actually supported the right to repair legislation behind closed doors, but I think that they did that because they knew that there was no chance of it moving forward in the Senate anyway, so that they could look like they supported it when they actually don't. Complicated. And finally, in the year 2025, the governor signed into law Right to Repair Act, House Bill 1483, sponsored by Mia Gregerson, who's awesome, giving consumers and independent repair providers fair access to parts, tools, and information needed to repair digital devices. It also prohibits parts pairing, which is a practice that manufacturers use to restrict repair. So if you want this part from this device to be able to work in this device, even if this device was purchased new from the store and this device was purchased new in the store, you can't swap them. So it's one thing when they won't sell you the part. It's another one they won't even allow you to take a part from this one and put it into this one. So this bill was pretty cool for that. And again, it did take a while. Like I would say the first time that I went to Washington was in 2020, and 5 years later something got passed. But the U.S. PIRG did exceptional work here, and also people like Stephen Ryan. Shout out to Stephen Ryan of Ryan Labs for all of his hard work in the state of Washington. He's an awesome and cool dude who he's been dedicated to this for a long time. He's also the person that was Cami Research wanted to sue alongside me. So yeah. I like Stephen Ryan. Fuck Cami Research. Let's go over some of the lobbying that was not at state level, but rather supposed to be for federal level. So I'm going to go back to the summary report over here. We're going to go over to just lobbying. And over here, you'll see $390,000 in total that was not dedicated to individual states. Here you'll see that there was Emmer Consulting. Emmer Consulting is a group that we were lobbying to try and get Section 1201 of the DMCA revised, which is now my nonprofit Fulu is dedicated to doing. Section 1201 of the DMCA said that if you break a digital lock on something that you bought and own, even if it's for the purposes of repair, if you show other people how to do that, you can go to prison for 3 to 5 years. It's a very horribly fucked up law, and this is coming from the libertarian point of view. So the progressive point of view tends to be that we should have laws that limit manufacturers from being assholes, whereas the libertarian point of view is that government should not be forcing people to do things, but and right to repair is kind of fucked from both. So there are no laws in the book that limit manufacturers from being assholes to you, but simultaneously, if you try to come up with a repair solution yourself, you say, whatever, forget about the manufacturer should not have to provide you with shit. Let's say I come up with my own fucking repair tool for how to make something work again. If I show somebody else how to do that and they're breaking a digital lock in the product, they could still go to prison. So whether you're talking about it from the progressive end or the libertarian end, right to repair is kind of fucked from both. And Section 1201 is a law that makes it illegal to break that digital lock, and we're trying to say that if you come up with your own fucking repair tool on your own, that there should be no punishment for you, which I think is fairly reasonable. Unfortunately, that did not go anywhere. Now, these checks that you see to U.S. PIRG, they are fairly big checks, and I don't know if I can export this when I export the file. I'd like to actually export it so you could see check images, because even in the bank statements, if you see a check for $250,000, that's not really going to... These checks over here to US PIRG, again, this comes down to the fact that US PIRG was helping us organize across the entire country. This was not just in one state, so they were helpful in Washington, they are helpful in Texas, they are helpful in New York, they are helpful in pretty much any state in the United States where they have a chapter, and Nathan Proctor was doing a great job of directing these resources and also directing people in all these different states. And the reason that I felt the amount of confidence that I did in having Nathan Proctor as a partner in all of this is because, as I said, he's always there. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years is that there are the people that really know their shit that don't actually get attention. Like, Nathan knows his stuff. He knows how to get stuff through a legislature. And when he talks about right to repair, it gets 3,700 views in 8 years. Like, life's not fair. Why is it that somebody like me that knows much less about the legislature gets so much more attention? So this is one of those areas where I know how to get people excited to email their state legislator. I know how to get something to get tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of views and get people riled up about an issue. He knows how do I take those people and funnel it into actually getting a bill passed? What committee? Who's the head of that committee? Who's friends with the person that's on that committee? All that shit that you actually need to be able to do on the ground to get something passed. Partnering with him is a big part of why we're able to get anything passed at all. And I give Nathan Proctor all the credit in the world for everything that he was able to do there. And I'm going to have this entire thing get released as there's going to be 2 transaction reports. There's going to be one that's general, and there's going to be one that is a much more detailed report. So if you want to read through any of the individual things, you'll be able to see pretty much the entire detail of everything. So like, you'll be able to look at this and reconstruct the CSV file so that you can see every transaction for a lobbyist, who it went to, what it was for. Now getting to the lessons that I learned from this entire process and why it is I've decided that I am not going to be doing any future fundraising and going forward with this in the future. There's a couple of reasons. What did I learn? Number one, that it's actually easier to get a law passed than I thought, but it's much more difficult to get a law passed that is actually useful. I'll give you an example. So when we get a law passed that says you must provide the independent service provider with the same tools, parts, etc., that you provide your own mechanics or your own technicians. What if Apple just doesn't provide anything to their own technicians? What if Apple doesn't give their technicians schematics? What if the Apple authorized technician doesn't have access to schematics, diagrams, chips, parts, and everything else? What did I win? In New York, there was a loophole in one of these bills for safety. If there's a safety concern, they can just glue the things together. So there you have Samsung selling a $220 screen with a $5 battery glued to it and saying that, look, we have to sell the assembly to a phone that's $200 for $220 because of safety. There's a lot of ways to get around these laws. And even when you are actually complying with the law, what they're doing is they're complying with the law. Like, you want everything that our authorized technicians get? Here you go. Because for a lot of these companies, the authorized technicians don't actually do anything. They replace full assemblies, or they just replace your phone with a used one, or they'll do some bullshit where they'll say, well, our authorized repair providers don't have access to schematics. Who does have access to it are our reverse logistics providers. And it just becomes this really stupid game where it's very difficult to legislate. Don't be an asshole. It's easy to legislate something like if you want to do repair services, you have to provide a warranty of at least 3 months to 1 year for your repair services. But it's very hard to legislate subjective things like don't be an asshole. That's incredibly difficult, and there are lots of ways around it. And what I've noticed is that 5 years into this process, every repair shop that is kind of like the same similar business that I am in has access to less stuff than they did 5 years ago. Like, objectively speaking, most repair companies like mine are worse off now than they were 5 years ago. And this comes to why I'm not pushing forward in this. Does this mean that I don't believe in right to repair? Absolutely not. I believe in right to repair 100%. But I'm not one of those, I had this conversation with Aaron from Fudo just a few months ago, and we were talking about the ways that you can tell whether a nonprofit is kind of a scam or not. And I'm not saying, I don't want to apply this to every other nonprofit. This is just my personal opinion, how I see things. But one of it is, do you admit when you lost? Do you keep moving forward and saying, if you don't see a path to achieving your goal, do you try to do this whole thing where you pivot and pretend you had a different goal all along, or say, well, we're going to try to focus on this stuff now, or, we didn't pass these things, but if we get a few $1 million of your money next year, maybe we can win. If I believe that if I got $10 million, if I had a 5% belief that with $10 million that I could get something done, maybe I move forward. But I don't see that, because I see how manufacturers will always find a loophole around these laws. and I see how they have for the past 5 years, and I would feel like an asshole saying, yeah, I collected almost $1 million. I spent it lobbying in all these different states with all these really smart people, and we're worse off now than we were before. But if you give me some more money, I'll get that. Like, I don't have it in me to do that. And more importantly, I don't, I'll put this. The way that I'm going to win when it comes to right to repair is not going to be through getting these types of laws passed. For me, it's going to be through cultural change. The people that watch this channel and watch those live stream board repairs from 2015 and 2017 that say, when I grow up, when I graduate from college, when I become an engineer, when I start a company, when I work for one of these companies, I'm never going to be that asshole that emails Intersil and tells them, don't make this chip available to anybody else. Like, that's where the real change is going to come from. I don't see a path forward with the legislative route at this point in time for right to repair. I do see one for things like revoking Section 1201 of the DMCA. That's a small part of it, and that's what Fulu is working on, but I don't see one for this. And secondly, this is a big one, is the ego thing. I'm probably one of the biggest names in right to repair. So if I wanted to do a fundraiser, if I went out there and said, here's where we're losing, here's where we're winning, if I just got more money, maybe I'll be able to figure it out. I'm going to take away money that could actually be made available to people who know how to win. I've been doing this for 5 years, right? So I've been doing this for 5 years, and I have tried to get something pushed forward, and I have, like, for all the stuff that I've done, I have not. What if there's somebody else out there that knows way more than me, that knows how to get something done, that has a completely different idea, but they don't get money because that money went to me instead of them? I'm open to the idea that there are other people out there that know how to handle this better than me. And if they are, I want to actually give them a chance to do it. A couple of other things that I learned in salary. This is something that I learned from my personal trainer. He always says, he's a great guy. I've known him for 8 years. We're good friends. I've trained with him for 2.5 years, been friends for 8. And he always says that I do something called process bullshit, which is where I try to respond to these arguments from people, but there's no meat in them. They just kind of want to screw with you. And one of the things that I said when I started this nonprofit is that I was going to take a $0 salary for the 5 years of work that I did. And I did not pay myself for the entire 5 years. If you look through these bank statements, if you look through the thing, you will see that in September of 2021, I went on a right to repair tour in Massachusetts to try and get people involved and excited to go to the Capitol and actually push right to repair to their customers and their stores, everything else. This was the tour. I spent maybe like $1,000-ish or so on hotels while I was traveling around. Other than that, this has never paid me a salary at all. Like, I don't comp my trips or meals or anything like that. And I'll be honest with you, that was actually a mistake. I thought that I was doing that because I'm taking $1 to $3 donations from people in my audience that probably have less money than me. How could I possibly pay myself a salary? I care about right to repair. I care about these things. I would do this for free anyway, so why not do this for free here? But if I think back to it, the actual reason I was doing it is because of the criticism I thought I would get from people who say, he's a grifter, he's a scammer, he rips off his nonprofit, look, he's just doing this for the money. And what I'm doing there is I'm letting the people that hate me dictate my actions, and it was subconscious. I didn't even realize I was doing it. And here's the thing about those people, is that if you go on Reddit, you'll see, even like I think it was on Reddit comments, Northridge Fix's comment section on a couple of videos had this, where people were just saying, yeah, like he took all that money and he used it to leave New York, where's right to repair? And I'm just thinking, there are so many people that said that I used this money on myself anyway. So even though I paid myself a $0 salary, essentially all the people that hate you are going to say that you stole money from it anyway. Like, it doesn't matter. So, you shouldn't do things to cater to the people that already hate you. And not paying myself a salary when I already have a YouTube channel, 2 businesses, and everything else that I have going on, and at one point a job, I didn't take this as seriously as I would have subconsciously if it was an actual job with a paid salary. I didn't treat it the same way as I would have. And then trying to juggle all of these things, this was another problem that I had, is that, again, I'm juggling this nonprofit, the other nonprofit, my repair company, YouTube channel, everything else. There's only so much time and effort that I can focus on certain things, and I'm going to focus on the things that allow me to pay my rent and pay, at least at the time, and pay for everything else. So I was not necessarily putting in the type of full-time effort that I should have, and I was also allowing myself to be split in so many different directions that wound up causing me to not focus as much as I should have on any individual thing. Like in 2022, I let my YouTube channel go in some ways. It could be argued that from 2021 through 2025, productive. I most certainly let my business go in a number of ways that I shouldn't have. And now I'm running to play catch up on it right now, where for the last several months, I've been catching up on my business, not even having a Google ranking. I've been catching up on like just a lot of company culture issues that have eroded the business that from what I recognized 5 and 7 years ago, and also my own life. It's like one of the things that really went to shit was, I remember in 2020, my New Year's resolution, my girlfriend at the time, was that I am not going to open a new company. I am going to de-stress by doing less things and opening 2 nonprofits, moving to Texas, taking on a new job on top of those 2 nonprofits. And like this, I'll just be real. In 2021, I just completely blew up my life by trying to do way too many things at one point in time. But the point I want to get back to here is the point on money. When I said I was not going to take a salary for this nonprofit, I was doing that because I was really concerned about what the peanut gallery was going to say if I actually took a salary for it. They're going to say that you're stealing money. They're going to say you only care about the money, but they're going to say that anyway. They said that about my YouTube videos because I have monetization on them, but I turned monetization on in 2016. From 2012 to 2015, people would say that I'm only doing all the stuff for the money anyway, even when my YouTube videos were demonetized, because my YouTube videos had my name in them so people could find my business. Like, if somebody wants to say that they want to dismiss what it is you're saying, they're always going to find a reason to dismiss what you're saying. They're always going to look for it. And to cater to the people that are looking for reasons to hate you, regardless of what it is you do, is silly. And I was doing that in my brain when I decided not to pay myself a salary. It seems like what I was doing was noble, but when I actually analyzed the thought process behind it and pulled the string, it was really not done for the best of reasons. It was done because I cared what other people think a little too much. And I think that it's possible that if I had paid myself, again, even some like $40,000 a year or something, even something like not crazy at all, that I would have, would things have been different? Would that money have resulted in me being maybe 20% more invested? Would being 20% more invested have led to maybe this bill not having a loophole or more here? I'm never going to know. But the thing that I realize is that I made the decision to not take a salary, not based on the right things. And I realized I let the thoughts get to me that I didn't even really realize until later on. So there are people that I'll talk to online where there'll be somebody who doesn't trust a lot of what I'm doing, but when I have a 5-minute conversation back and forth with them, they're like, oh, cool, that's awesome. And I have to learn how to separate and segment those people away from people who are literally just naysay, like who just fucking hate you for who you are and just are looking for a reason to hate what you're doing and who you are because they hate their own lives and they hate themselves. And I didn't know how to tell the difference. And that's something that I learned. It was an extra. And while I did put a lot of effort in, and while there were things that got done, I do think that we organized a lot of great things. It wasn't the same as if I had even paid myself a base level, poverty level salary. If I were to start any new nonprofit, like with Fulu, I pay myself a salary from that. And I'm completely unapologetic about it because I did this stuff for 5 years for nothing. I would 100% pay myself because it also forces me to hold myself to a standard that subconsciously I don't hold myself to if I'm doing it for free. Because if I'm doing it for free and I get nothing done, I always have that thing in the back of my head of, well, I didn't pay myself, so even if I failed in this regard or that regard, it doesn't really matter as much. That's not the way it works. And I was doing homie business with myself. I have a video on the channel from 2014, 2015 talking about why you should never do homie business. And what I said is when you try to do something for a discount for your friends or for free for your friends and family, you wind up doing a crappier job by them. They have full expectations of you. It just all goes to shit. And I think I let those voices in my head make my decision process there, and it doesn't make any sense. The other lessons that I learned here, the reasons that legislators make their decisions are not always the reasons that you think. A lot of us assume that it's bribery, it's all the stuff behind the scenes. And yeah, I'm sure that has something to do with it. A lot of it really has to do with the fact that at any given point in time, there are so many issues on an individual legislator's list that this just winds up always being at the end. If you're talking about ICE, immigration, COVID, inflation, war in Iran, war in Iraq, Afghanistan, whatever the hell else, if you look at all the different things that a legislator has to deal with at the federal level and at the state level, you look at everything that's going on, it's not always necessarily about that. It's just they have only so much brain space to dedicate to any particular issue, and this issue always winds up being in the bottom of the list. So one of the things that I learned is that for all the popularity that this issue has gained from the time that I started doing YouTube in 2012 to the time that I started this nonprofit in 2021, that was only about 5 or 10% of the work that actually needed to be done. The real work is not necessarily in trying to push a bill. It's getting to the point where right to repair and right to own is one of those issues that's at the top of a legislator's list because their camera just turned off and said, I'm sorry, you need to subscribe to it, or some shit like that. Things have to actually get way worse than they are right now in order for it to get to a point where a legislator actually wants to pass a bill. A lot of the times when I'm talking to somebody and they don't understand what's going on, it's not because they're getting paid to not understand what's going on. A lot of the times that's just because they legitimately have everything else is a bigger issue than this. And I understand why that's the case. This has been a really long-winded, ranty video, and I'll probably do a live stream to answer some of your questions on this at a later time because I don't think I did a good job of organizing my thoughts in this video. But I just wanted to walk you through everything, and I also wanted an opportunity to provide you with the bank statements and the transaction list down below for anybody who is curious with what happened with this. I really do hope that people, if somebody else picks up the mantle and does a great job, that they're able to get more done than we were able to get done. I really appreciate the work of everybody in the coalition. And at the end of the day, I don't fault anybody in the coalition. I don't fault most of the lobbyists. I definitely don't fault Nathan Proctor or any of those people for the fact that, objectively speaking, 5 years in, there's, still, there's a reason that I had schematics or die written on a mouse pad in 2015. And the reason for that is so that I could not 10 or 11 years later come out here and pretend that I succeeded at something if I didn't. There's a reason that Mr. Clinton's face is on there. This is actually BlackBerry over here, but you get the point. There's a reason that Mr. Clinton's face was on there, angrily screaming schematics or die. It was so that I couldn't redefine what success meant later if I wanted to become some sellout and pretend that I actually won something that I didn't. And that's that. I will see you all in the next video. Bye now.